The title of this video is Your Third Eye Psychic Development, Part 2. Your third eye is also your sixth chakra, and so I use both these terms interchangeably. It's basically located between the eyebrows, a little bit higher than the bridge of the nose. It's centered on an oval shape, not necessarily a perfect sphere, and in some cases it looks like a candle flame that goes upward. It's not necessary to be clairvoyant to be enlightened or for ascension, but it does expand your perceptions and the energies all around you. What you see can be colors, can be pictures, can be symbols, can be visions, even non-physical beings and other dimensional beings. The third eye does not have any understanding any more than does your physical eye. This is your center of clairvoyant sight. Sometimes the sixth chakra is described as expanding like peacock feathers across the forehead. In more advanced stages, the sixth chakra actually merges with the crown chakra, the seventh chakra. Understanding, or more accurately, realization, comes from the crown chakra down into the sixth, and then it's processed through the sixth chakra. Understanding is a word that's usually associated with an analytical process of figuring things out, whereas realizations are more of a direct knowing, and they arise like an aha, or like what's sometimes called an epiphany. It's like direct download that shifts you into a higher level of consciousness. To have realizations of what you see clairvoyantly, you must clear and remove any blockages in the third eye. Oh, there can also be barriers between the third eye and the crown chakra. And this latter barrier is mostly composed of doubts, fears, and concerns that emanate from the analytical mind. The analytical mind is the part of your mind that questions and doubts, and it's often called the ego-based mind or the ego personality. So what you want to do is you want to make sure there are no obstructions between your sixth and seventh chakras, and you do this by addressing the nature of the block, which is usually a form of fear or maybe doubt. And this results in the energy of your sixth or seventh chakra sometimes being blocked. When that block is removed, the energy between the sixth and seventh chakra merge into something that looks a little bit like a ski cap covering the top of the head. And if you look up the word Buddha on the internet, do a search on it, and then click on the images, you're going to see some interesting things on the top of Buddha's head. Now, I've often asked people, what do you think that is? You'll notice there's a lot of little circular objects on the top of his head and on the sides of his head. These are actually nodes of the crown chakra, and they expand and cover a large portion of the top of the head and the side of the head, and ultimately merge in with the sixth chakra. But some of the traditions about it are really kind of humorous. One of the traditions is that it's his hair all curled up. Or the other one, which I really find hilarious, is the idea that they are snails crawling on the top of his head to protect him. I have to conclude that whoever came up with these explanations was certainly not clairvoyant, because I've seen them clear as a bell, and they're certainly not snails or even curly hair. But if you prefer to think of them that way, if you go along with their tradition, I'm not going to dispute your experience or your preference. I'm just reporting what I've seen and experienced, which I think makes a little bit more sense than snails. Regardless, you don't need to do anything to make the expansion happen. It will happen automatically. The sixth chakra will expand, and it will move up into a very large ray, like the wings of Isis in some cases, or peacock feathers. It'll spread out and then it'll wrap around the back of the head. And this will generally happen naturally, not through any artificial means. You don't need to do anything about it. A lot of the practices that you'll be doing to develop your clairvoyance will automatically cause the chakra to open and expand. Those who connect their clairvoyant visions through their third chakra at the solar plexus area, as many psychics do, perceive a lot of illusions in the astral world, and they see energy patterns from their own mind and energy that they've accumulated from people they've been interacting with. And this can be a source, a great source of a lot of wrong information. You know, the third chakra processes the strongest emotions, hatred and anger and guilt and resentment. And if you hold any of that in your third chakra at the solar plexus, if you haven't cleared that yet, that can interfere with your seeing clairvoyantly if you are projecting your vision through your third chakra, which actually is what a lot of psychics do. So third issues can end up filtering the experience that you have and you think you're seeing on someone else, and actually you're reading some of the garbage in your own third chakra. And this is true of many psychics. They do not clear the energies of the people they've been reading. So they could be picking up a lot of energy from a lot of different people that they're doing clairvoyant readings on. And so they have a whole mixture of things in there. And I've heard some of the most bizarre readings that you could ever imagine, simply because the psychic did not clear the person's energy off of them from the preceding reading. So this is pretty common. And in the case of a psychic reading like that, the psychic actually enters into your energy field to read your energy. That's how they get the information. And so they're merging their auras and their consciousness with you. And so they pick up a lot of what's going on in your energy field, and they can mistakenly be reading someone else's energy and thinking it's yours. When you attune to subtle energy with your third eye, your sixth chakra, you want to be open, receptive, and have a quiet, non-interfering analytical mind. And this is a lot easier when your point of focus is in the center of your head, which just happens to be about where the pineal gland is. I know that word's pronounced differently. Some people pronounce it pineal, and some people pronounce it pineal. The pineal gland is a small endocrine gland located in the center of the brain. And since ancient times, it's been regarded as being the place of insight, of spiritual insight, spiritual vision, and clairvoyance. And coincidentally, it just happens to be situated right behind your sixth chakra, which is regarded as the doorway to your clairvoyance, intuition, and higher consciousness. It's amazing to realize that the structure of the pineal gland actually has rods and cones similar to the retina of our eyes, and it's connected to the visual cortex of our brain. So when we turn our attention to it, we actually open our natural clairvoyant sense and our higher intuition. Some psychics read energy from their heart chakra or their solar plexus, as I mentioned. But in both of those instances, there can be contamination from the psychic's own past or from the energy that they've accumulated from maybe someone else that they've also done a psychic reading on. A potential problem with this is when you're listening to a psychic, they're scanning you and they're reading your energy and they're telling you things. They're making an energetic connection with you, and that can throw you out of balance and instill thoughts and ideas into your subconscious mind that are not true. But they can then act like programming in your subconscious mind that starts affecting you. People have often reported to me that their mind will fixate on things that the psychics have told them in the past, and then they worry about it. And so for this reason, it's a good idea to clear off any energy connections with the psychic. And if you're doing psychic readings on someone else, you should clear off the energy of somebody that you might have accumulated as well. When you're beginning to open your third eye, you may see something, but because of blockages and filters, you don't really see very clearly or even understand what you're seeing. As the third eye opens, your forehead appears to be bright and shining. And the more the third eye opens, the more the energy rays expand, and then they can look like wings. Some say like the wings of Isis. And sometimes the light that I see sometimes in clairvoyance foreheads is really bright. It looks almost like looking at the sun. In the beginning stages of the third eye opening, colors are what are usually seen first. And sometimes there'll be images, but they're usually vague. If the images are seen at all, they're usually perceived a little bit like looking through a steamed window or like looking at something through heat rays on a hot summer's day. They're sort of indistinct and distorted, and you might be unsure of what you're seeing. And that's okay, because with experience, they will become clearer. And you can always tell the person whose energy you're reading, I'm not really sure exactly what this is that I'm seeing. I'm not sure what it means, but here's what it looks like. And a lot of times the person will say, oh, I know what that is. And they'll give you their own feedback on it. So the energies and the beings who form physical reality can sometimes be perceived with your clairvoyant vision. You can sometimes see spirit guides, for instance. That's quite common. You can see angels around a person. The problem that you have is the process is like an attunement. It's kind of like tuning an old radio dial. You know, you had to keep turning that dial until you got the frequency just right. As your clairvoyant sight opens more, you will see energy fields like clouds and geometric patterns. Sometimes you'll see actual geometric shapes around a person. For instance, you might see the Merkaba, and the Merkaba is composed of geometric shapes. It's like a double pyramid, one pointing out, one pointing down. The aura can frequently go out 10 to 15 feet, and it's not unusual to see it go a whole lot more. I've seen them go out 30, 40, and 50 feet. That's not uncommon either. Often in the aural layers, you're going to see colorful waves of energy. And all of these energy layers have a lot of information in it. For instance, the mental body is the third aural layer. And that third aural layer is projected by the third chakra, which is your solar plexus. So you can find words, you can find ideas, you can find symbols, you can find pictures of experiences. While in the second aural layer, which is projected by the second chakra, you're going to find a different kind of energy here. Here's where you find most of the pictures in a person's aura. These are pictures from their past, things that they've experienced or they've witnessed. And there is usually emotional energy attached to the pictures. So you'll think of these as memories. With most people, there are connections that influence the difficulty of understanding what is seen. So you want to clear any blockages. Often, being patient is the most important character trait to develop, because in the beginning, it can take many minutes before you get any kind of an insight. And in fact, you may not even get an intuitive impression at all. And this can be pretty frustrating and discouraging if you don't know that this can happen ahead of time. You can think that, well, you're just automatically going to see things immediately, just like you do with your eyes open. That's not the way it works. And so you can start doubting yourself and defeating yourself before you get very far. And for the times that you don't receive anything, just take a deep breath. Come back to it again later. Everything will eventually become more clear if you stick with it. And here are 3 secrets. Number 1, it's best to practice when you're in the mood. You've probably noticed that sometimes you just feel more in the mood for meditating than at other times. Sometimes it's easier to relax and feel connected to your inner space. If you start a session and it doesn't seem to be getting traction, say after 10 or 15 minutes, let it go. Come back to it a little while later. Try again. You may find that it works a whole lot better when you are refreshed. So don't berate yourself for not succeeding. Who knows? Maybe the stars just weren't perfectly aligned, or maybe you had too much on your mind, or maybe your biorhythms weren't synced up. It doesn't really matter what the reason was. Just try again later. The biggest block everyone faces starting out is self-doubt and fear. You'll have some self-doubt. You'll probably think you're making it up. You'll have to be attentive to what goes on in your own mind. Your own mind is what interferes. So you might be thinking, what's wrong with me? Why am I not able to do this? Other people can do this. I should be able to do this. Maybe I'm just not good at this. Psychic impressions don't come by thinking or trying to figure anything out. The process is not at all analytical, and yet that's exactly what the mind typically tries to do, because that's all it knows what to do. It's always trying to analyze things. It doesn't know any other way. So, when you don't immediately get something, the mind will throw up the idea like you're doing it wrong, or maybe you'll never be able to do this, or there's something wrong with you. And so this can only confuse you and discourage you and make you think that you're just never going to be able to do it. It just takes practice. Just relax. Allow your psychic development to occur naturally. The second secret is to be very relaxed and neutral. You want to be patient, and I can't emphasize being patient enough. That being patient means that you aren't projecting self-doubt, or you aren't projecting judgments, or any other preconceived idea, or you're not engaged in analyzing anything. If you find yourself saying, gosh, I wonder what that means, huh? I got to try to figure this out. Once you do that, you're in your analytical mind, and you're not getting a direct download. And so whatever you get with that method is going to be filtered by things that you've heard or that you've thought. The fact is, you want to be kind of natural and casual and relaxed about the whole process. You want to have a subtle intention of being open to receive. Sure you do. When you first begin practicing, you may find yourself arguing with yourself that some of these things that you're imagining couldn't possibly be the correct thing. You might be thinking, well, that's just too weird. That can't be right. Or, well, that's just not me. Or, I must be making this up. Don't worry if this happens. It happens to almost everybody, and it is simply your mind responding to an old subconscious program. It's been going on probably in the background of your head for years. As time goes on, the negative self-talk will grow less and less and less, and your abilities will grow greater and greater and greater. Practice makes perfect. Your ability to see, visualize, attune, or imagine will improve dramatically the more you practice. Secret number 3 is that it makes no difference how your impressions appear. Just as Each person visualizes in a little different way. Each person has his or her own way of visualizing and receiving psychic impressions. So if you had 10 psychics lined up and you had them tune into a person, you're going to find some similarities, but you're more likely going to find them explained differently as well. And that doesn't mean that anybody's wrong. It's just a lot of times these things have symbolic language superimposed over the images, and it might take you a little while to figure out what that means. So there's no need to compare yourself to anyone else, no need to judge yourself. Impressions will be coming in a wide variety of ways that are unique to you. So just be open and relaxed to whatever comes in. Over the weeks and months, you're going to find that you will become quite skilled in receiving and interpreting what you perceive. It is important to recognize that seeing with the mind's eye is a lot different from seeing with your eyes open, or let's say like watching a movie. Often you're going to see colors and patterns and symbols. You may see or hear words, and some of them may not seem to make sense or relate to anything. In those cases, you can ask yourself, what does this mean? And then you wait for an answer. Ask for more clarification. Explain it to me again. Make it more simple. Show me another way I can understand this. Just keep asking questions about it, and your mind will come up with ways to make it a whole lot easier for you. Don't worry if you don't figure it out that day or that minute or that week even. Sometimes these things come along later. So this is enough background for this lesson. Next, I'm going to lead you through a meditation portion of the third eye activation, and we'll do that on a separate video.